We hope you brought the aloe and sunscreen.
Bullshit.
Because these takes are scorching hot. Now, get ready for some raw,
You want it raw?
gritty, and unfiltered takes from the old man, Don himself.
She can't say the truth because it does makes her look like an idiot. Because that's what she is.
These are Pop's Takes, right here on BB Nation Radio.
Bullshit.
Okay, here we are again.
Yeah, welcome back to this edition of Pop's Takes, right here on Backwoods Veterans Media. Pops, here we are.
We are at it.
1 month into 2021, and we're still here and still alive.
Okay, yeah, well, that's debatable sometimes. But, you know, you're talking about 1 month, and I heard something yesterday, and I believe it. I was thinking about putting together a list of all the new executive orders that have been signed in the last, since the inauguration.
What is the count up to now? Isn't it like 47 or something like
No,
that?
it was over 100 the last I heard.
Over what?
There's so many of them. He has signed so many executive orders. They were saying that when they added them all up, from what he's signed, and since he's taken office in this short time, that he has actually signed more executive orders than the last 5 presidents put together in 6 months. Now you add that up and see what you got.
That is quite a few.
It's like they forgot that we do have a Congress that's supposed to run this country, not the president. The president's
but you only rule through executive order if you're a dictator.
Well,
and he's not a dictator. You know that, right?
As of when?
I'm just going off of what the man said. You know, especially back during the debates before the election.
Well, I understand what they said in the debates, but how much of that stuff do they say during the campaigns and everything that you can believe?
Yeah, you know what's bad? I have to say this though. Kamala Harris, to her credit, she actually called every single issue of what Joe Biden has done so far.
That ought to tell you
during the debates, during the primaries.
Oh, I know, and that tells you what.
And she wanted absolutely nothing to do with Joe Biden, but since being picked as his VP, it is such an honor to serve as your vice president, Mr. Biden. Really? But yet you're just calling this man a racist and everything else?
They talk out of one side of their mouth one time, then the next time it's a whole different story out of the other side of the mouth.
Yeah.
So there must be a partition in there between their two brains that keep them from actually saying what the truth is or what they really want to do. What they do,
because it makes them look like an idiot?
They try and tell you what they think you want to hear. And, you know, what I want to hear is the truth. I want to know what you really feel about something. I don't want to know what Joe Blow over here thinks about it. I want to know what
Why are you looking at me when you say that?
Do what?
Why are you looking at me when you say that? When Joe Blow over here.
I didn't look at you that time. I might have thought
it was insinuated.
No, it's the truth. So, I mean, I really don't care about the people listening to you, what they've got to say. I want to know what you think and what is important to you. And so far, I haven't heard anything except what Kamala Harris said that they were going to do. And that's all I've heard since the inauguration.
Well, you know, all of this was called back during the 2020 campaign, leading up to the election. Everybody thought, you know, getting Orange Man Bad out of office and putting Pedo Joe in the hoe, as a lot of people called him. Yeah.
Well, it's really...
but seriously though, putting all that aside, putting now President Biden and Vice President Harris into the White House was going to be a grand idea. Apparently, not so much as a grand idea as what everybody thought it was going to be. But what's bad is that a lot of this is called. So many people from both sides of the aisle, both Democrat and Republican, were calling this the stuff that's happening right now.
Right.
What now President Biden was going to do during the campaigns. They all said, watch, it's going to happen. Nobody listened. Even going up to the general election. Why? Because of so many people, at least in my opinion, had this, what we call, TDS, Trump derangement syndrome.
Well, they were so worried about getting rid of Trump. They hate him so much because he did what he said he was going to do. He's going to drain the swamp as much as he could. Well, he had a pretty good start at it till all this election came up and everything changed everything. But it's really, really sad that people just are now finding out what this whole thing has all been about. And it's been about taking the power away from the people and giving it to a few of our politicians.
Right.
And my brothers and sisters in arms and yours I feel so bad because what we went out and fought for and laid our lives on the line for and everything has got nothing. It's like it never happened because what we fought for is going down the tubes. And it's disheartening to see that.
And here's the big thing you talk about disheartening is I get what you're saying when it comes to this stuff, because you talk about what we fought for, what, generations such as yours. And the reason I say generations such as yours is because for us, my generation, the post 9/11 generation, was more of a counterinsurgency, a counterterrorism type of battle, more about ideology versus more of what, the tail end of the Cold War, Vietnam, Korea, conflicts such as that, like what you were in, even going back to World War II, you were fighting more of a, I guess in respects as an ideology as well, but it was an established type of system versus capitalism versus communism versus fascism versus, in their true sense of the words. Because now what, at least from what I'm seeing, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're seeing the same thing, and I imagine you probably are, that we're starting to see less and less of the things of what we grew up with, what generations like us here grew up with versus what you saw growing up with and having. And now we're starting to see that slow transition and grasp of moving towards socialism / communism. It is, people will sit there and think, well, he's just calling it because he's just a righty and everything. No, it is what it is. It's calling a spade a spade.
Hey, I got to tell you something. Can you tell me what Vietnam was all about to begin with? What started it?
Wasn't it the movement of North Vietnam into South Vietnam, a communist regime trying to move over and take over an actual republic, I guess you could say, or representative?
That was the excuse they used.
Okay, well then please.
First off, all right. It was all about money in Kennedy's family's pocket. That's what the whole thing started over. And it's the same thing now with Biden and his family's money in their pocket. And they don't care who they hurt or what they got to do, as long as they can fill their coffers with the coin. And that's what started. It was not the conservatives or anything else that put us into Vietnam. And people argue with me about it, but I know I got my orders. I was the first unit. I was with the first military unit to go into Vietnam as a unit. We had guys there in
not as advisors or anything else like that.
We had advisors and all that before.
Yeah.
But we were a helicopter squadron. We were the first unit to go in and we moved into an old French air base, and moved into that. And set
That
up
explains
in
why
there.
you said the first military unit, because you were talking about the French prior to.
Yeah.
And the French don't count.
That's about the size of it. As far as the Vietnamese and the Chinese, and all, or not Chinese, but Russians and all that, that's the way they figured it anyhow.
All right.
But we moved into that in, let's see, it was February, the end of February in '62.
Mm-hmm.
And we got our orders direct. We were in the Philippines on maneuvers. We got direct orders from President John F. Kennedy
Right.
to go to Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
We went from Philippines. Well, we were over by Manila, and we went over to Cuba Point in Subic Bay area by Alonapol, and switched out a bunch of engines and stuff like that in our choppers, and got everything high time and ready to go. And then we shipped out, went aboard the, I think it was I don't remember, it was the Thetis Bay or the USS Princeton, but one of the two. At that time, I think it was the Princeton. And we went and we flew off of there into that, on the southern tip of Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were with the first unit, and we were not sent in by conservative or anything else. We were sent in because of some big dealings going on financial-wise. And we found that out, a lot of us military found that out after we'd been there a little bit.
So you don't believe that any of the other stuff that we talked about, any other reasoning why we were there, fighting the communists or anything else, you don't think that was any part of it?
A small part, but if it was a big, major part of it, we would have finished the job.
Well, you also got to
we
consider.
were never allowed to finish the job.
Yeah, I understand that.
And they put restrictions on what we were doing to keep us from doing it. And how many times in a real war have you heard them put restrictions on commanders, commanding officers?
Iraq, Afghanistan.
Well, that's afterwards.
Prior to?
I'm talking about prior to.
38th parallel in Korea. We got the brakes put on us there.
Was that was right
But
after?
that was thanks to the UN. Thanks for that one.
Yeah, that wasn't our country. Or I mean, our
That was the UN
Yeah.
that
that
called
didn't
that
come
one.
down from ours.
No.
So, but in a real war, get this turned back. I get busy talking and I get it turned around. So, but in an actual war that like we had in World War I, World War II, you knew what you were fighting for. You were fighting for your own freedom because other countries are trying to take your country over. They wanted to do away with it. They wanted to dictate what was going on in the world over. You take Hitler and all them and the Japanese emperor and all them. They wanted to take over the whole world. They thought they could. They were strong enough, they thought. And you talk about bigots and all that, and racism. There's nothing bigger than racism than the German the German
The Gestapo,
Gestapo, that's what I was trying to
the
say.
SS.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was a double pain pill this
Well,
morning.
it was pretty much an entire Nazi party during that time.
Exactly. And if you weren't a white Nazi, you didn't count. What happened to you didn't matter. And we fought to keep away from that, to give people their opportunity no matter what they were. And that's what, I mean, I don't know. I know you had the same thing when you were in in combat and everything. You didn't care what the guy looked like next to you as long as he did his job.
It
right
didn't
and
matter.
Had your back.
It didn't matter.
Yeah, as long as he had your back, and he did because you had his.
When you're overseas, that crap that we deal with here, that playing that whole identity politics, that has to go by the wayside. You can't have that when you're downrange.
But, we didn't even have that here. I mean, I served with all nationalities. But I know a lot of people, my father-in-law was one of them, that the hardest thing they had was dealing with their feelings towards the Japanese. And, of course, that was his era. That's what he was in. And there was a lot of them that treated our people of Japanese descent that were still Americans.
Yeah.
They treated them quite badly.
Well, they put them in work camps back then.
Yeah.
And, it's a sad part of our history. But they weren't put into concentration camps and death camps like what they were doing over in Europe at the time.
But they were put under...
they were put under watchful eye.
Right. They were put into certain areas and kept in certain areas. But at the same time, we had them fighting side by side with our other soldiers right there in Vietnam, or in
over in the
Germany.
Pacific.
Yeah, in the Pacific and all that.
Yeah. So, had them in the Pacific, had them over in European theater.
So I'm going to say this again and again and again. I don't care what you look like, where your ancestors came from, but once you came into this country or became a citizen of this country, you are not, I don't care, you're not a African American, you're not a Mexican American or anything like that. You're not an Asian American. You are an American, period.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes you just as equal as just as right as it does me. And
can't argue with that point.
I mean, let's face it, a lot of us are Heinz 57s. I don't know. My mother was Dutch and English, and she went back, and her side of the family went clear back to Hancock. She was a Hancock. And you know who helped sign the Declaration of Independence?
Matter of fact, he was the first one to sign it. That's why it's called the John. That's why your signature is called the John Hancock.
Well, that's where I go back to.
Yeah, we've had that discussion. So,
a lot of people we're talking to right now didn't realize that our family goes back in both sides, in the English side and this. We just all go back to the Revolution and everything like that, and then before that. So we believe.
Yeah, we don't talk about Grandpa's side. How far back that goes, and some of the stuff there. Salem, what? Anyhow,
he was going back in the Salem Witches' day.
Yeah.
Anyhow, it's a long history of family history of
they don't want to hear about that,
protecting this country, and what we fought for. And my big thing is, I'm just so saddened to see the young people not understand what has happened with history and how it's been downtrodden so bad, and people don't know what exactly has went on in this country to give them the right to go out here and protest or whatever. And I'll stand up for any man to go to get a chance to protest if he feels like he needs to.
As long as it's done peacefully.
But it's peaceful protest. It's not, but it's going to be peaceful as long as people let them protest up to a point.
Right.
But then when you get others that aren't trying to protest, they're trying to create mayhem and get things going.
Antifa. Anyhow.
Well, that was the one I had in mind to top it all off.
Right.
When you get organizations that are backed up by convicted traitors,
right?
You can't expect a whole lot more.
it's funny you talk about things with people not understanding history and things like that. Quick funny story before we wrap this up. So here, Friday, was driving to work on my day job, right? Listening to local radio morning show.
Okay.
And it's funny because they're doing, they're doing basic trivia, with folks that were calling in and stuff. And it's funny because they finally got to the final round, and the last question that they asked this gal, 24-year-old gal up here out of Portland, Vancouver somewhere, I didn't quite catch exactly, but she was asked, what year was the Declaration of Independence written? Anybody that has actually studied or knows anything about our history as a nation understands that the Declaration of Independence was originally written and signed, not ratified, signed in 1775. Okay, leading us right into the Revolution, right?
Yeah.
You know what her answer was? 1843. 1-8. 50, like actually longer, like 70 years after it was written. So, you know what we were doing in 1843? We were just wrapping up with the Mexican-American War. down on the Rio Grande, taking on San Andreas and those guys.
You talk about that, one of the shows that I like to watch on Saturday nights is Water's World. And one of the portions of his show is he goes out on the street and asks young people, college people and all that, especially going to college towns and everything.
Right.
So he gets to talk to the colleges.
Mm-hmm.
And he asks them different questions. And I have never heard such idiotic answers from college, almost graduates, that haven't got a clue as to what is going on in this country. I mean, he asked him a lot of history questions, but he asked one time, who was the 45th president? You know who she said?
I'm almost afraid to ask who.
George Washington.
Sorry, I'm having a triggered moment here. What? She said who was the 45th president?
She said Washington was. That's it. Well, no, not he was the first. So let's go on down. And then she said Teddy Roosevelt. And I was thinking to myself, do you even know who the presidents were? Any of them? They have not got a clue.
Did they finally explain to her that the 45th president was actually Donald Trump, right?
He said, well, he happens to be president right now. He said, oh, really? Now,
oh, my goodness, wow.
That is the mentality of what our young people have been taught in these so-called higher learning areas. That's what's sad about it, the whole thing. And now we got teachers that don't want to go to work. They want to get their paycheck, but they don't want to go to work. And they want to stay home and keep doing what they've been doing. And we need to get the kids back to school and get them teaching the right thing. Get rid of this, what is it, that 16, they got a number for it, that one thing that they're teaching in school. They did away with everything about what they call 1776, which was one about the...
Oh, the 1776 Commission?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did away with that, but they kept,
that was one of the first things that went bye-bye. As soon as Obama, or not Obama, well, Biden, as soon as he hit office, that was one of the first things that they did was they shut that commission down quick, fast, and in a hurry. Wonder why.
You know, you just made a statement or started to make a statement about the who when you said, Biden.
Yeah.
I actually heard somebody introducing or talking about, they called it Biden Obama.
Obama?
Yeah.
Obama and Biden?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I buy that.
Yeah. Then they corrected themselves and says, Biden.
My goodness.
But it's getting so ridiculous about the whole thing. But I wanted to make that one point about how many executive orders and that they need to what has to happen is our Congress has to start looking at all these executive orders he's signed and get constitutional.
It's going to be hard to do when you have one party that has control of all three branches, or both houses of Congress as well as the presidency.
Yeah, it's like your Supreme Court Supreme Judge.
Your Chief Justice, yes.
Chief Justice. With this, he was supposed to be the one presiding over this.
The actual quote-unquote impeachment trial?
Right.
And he flat out refused. Yeah.
He says, no, he says it's unconstitutional. But they went ahead and did it anyhow.
They can't do it if they don't have a presiding justice from the Supreme Court.
They went ahead and did it with politician.
It's a kangaroo court in that case.
Exactly. That's why people call it a kangaroo court. So
anyhow,
those things we got to everybody keep up with them, and let's keep looking at it and keep our heads up and our heart in the right place. And sooner or later, we'll get everything straightened out, and the world will get better for us. But
by the way, it was 39 executive orders that would have been signed so far.
Is it 39?
39.
Well, somebody said it was over 100. All I know is it's more than anybody else has ever signed.
Yeah. And let's see, 11 days? 11 days that he's been in office?
But that was several days ago when I heard it.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, Pops, thank you again. Do appreciate it. And, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up, folks, and we'll catch you next time right here on Pops Takes.
God bless.